It's time for everyone to be investigated. Since winning back the House, the GOP has vowed to investigate Hunter Biden's shady business dealings and Sleepy Joe's connections to it all. But now, after Elon Musk exposed Biden's Twitter censorship, Kentucky Congressman James Comer wants big tech under a big microscope.
I think you're going to start seeing executives with not just Twitter, but also Facebook come forward and admit that they were influenced by people from the Democrat National Committee, people from the FBI, and even people from the Biden administration. You know, prior to Elon Musk, Twitter essentially served as a wholly owned subsidiary of the Democrat National Committee.
So are Republicans right to start a reality show called America's Got Investigations? Or is the Kentucky congressman spending too much time on the Bourbon Trail? Joining me now is editor-in-chief of the Federalist and Fox News contributor Mollie Hemingway. Mollie.
Great to be here with you.
Oh, thank God. I was so nervous. She's like, I watched that intro. I'm out of here, fella. Mollie, let's have this talk, and let's begin with the obvious, okay? If what we know was, say, oh, I don't know, like Donald Trump Jr., I sometimes get the feeling there'd be a little more intellectual curiosity into not who leaked this, but the actual veracity of what is on that laptop. Are you, like me, sensing a double standard big enough to drive an electric truck through?
You know, if you pay a lot of attention and you're really trained in how to understand slight differences in media coverage, you can detect an ever so slight difference in how corporate media and other members of the establishment treated the previous administration and this one. Yes, it's absolutely insane. And it's not just the laptop. It is so many things related to not just Hunter Biden, but the entire Biden family. They have a business, which is that you give members of the Biden family money because of their proximity to the person who's in power. And the people who do this are corrupt foreign governments, corrupt foreign oligarchs, and if any single one of these things were about any member of the Trump family, it would be nonstop front page news in the New York Times, and we all know it, and you know, it's unbelievable the level of propaganda we're dealing with.
Yeah, it's a lot to digest, and I say that as a guy who digests a lot of things, judging from my weight. But let's stay focused for a second. Do you get the fear, as I do, that when you read social media right now, there's such a big semantic fight over what constitutes interference and free speech that we're kind of losing the forest through the trees, and that the investigation into Twitter at this point would tell us what? They're liberal? I don't really need an investigation for that. But as far as the investigation into the Bidens, I kind of think that's where we're supposed to be focusing our energy.
So there are two issues here. One, I think it really is troubling that many people on the left openly disdain free speech, freedom of the press. They don't care about this type of meddling in elections. That really worries me for the future of the republic. But as for what Congress can do, there's not entirely all that much they can do in a divided Congress, but they really have to do a lot. And part of that will be oversight and investigations. And part of that is that we need legislative changes immediately to deal with the fact that some of these social media big tech oligarchs are more powerful than our own government and are a threat to the republic because of how much they are meddling in elections and free discourse, freedom of speech, freedom of the press. They are a tremendous threat, and something needs to be done, not just talked about in oversight hearings.
Yeah, for sure. And do you believe, as I do, because a lot of people have found Jesus very late in the service when it comes to this laptop. CBS, of course, now saying they authenticated it. Okay, there's no new information available today that wasn't available 2 years ago. So is this kind of an exercise in like revisionist ass covering, given that the GOP can expose this, and Elon kind of did?
Right. The reason why they covered up this story is because everybody knew it was true. They knew the details about this Biden family business and its corruption were so bad that they had to keep the American people from knowing about it before a very close election. And I just want to also say, it wasn't just the Hunter Biden story. They were meddling on all sorts of stories, whether it was the Democrat riots that besieged cities in the summer of 2020, everything about COVID, which, as your panelist notes, was a huge issue in the election. So their meddling was across all sorts of things. But yeah, it's a little late for people to admit it, and I think they think it's funny. But that's why people who care about this country need to do something. They need to not just talk about it. They need to have people deposed. Oh, that's a really important thing for these hearings. Don't do hearings, do depositions where you bring in all of these executives and you get them under oath to explain why they're telling different stories depending on their audience, exactly who they were colluding with in and outside the government, and you get some really good under oath answers that will begin to break things open.
1,000%. Mollie, that is why we give you the top shelf liquor at the Kennedy cocktail parties. That was excellent work as always.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mollie.